Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome into the show. A happy Monday to all of the real ones, and I hope all of you out there had a fantastic weekend. This is the Chase Down. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. What we're talking about here, breaking news in the National Football League on this Monday, April 6th, as Giants defensive tackle, All-Pro Dexter Lawrence has requested a trade. What is his value? What could the Giants get back? Is he a declining player? We're going to dive into all of that, but first, a reminder. I launched this channel a couple of weeks ago. I really appreciate all of the early support, and we're not stopping anytime soon. I'm trying to build the Chase Down into an empire, so if you like the content that I provide you all, and if you like what we do here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're already over 3,000 subscribers. We have so many great things planned for the NFL draft and the upcoming season. So join the movement and let's go. So the breaking news here today, according to Adam Schefter of ESPN, Giants defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence has requested a trade. And the timing of this is important. And it's news today because he will not be participating in the team's offseason workout program that begins on Tuesday. There are 10 new coaches across the NFL who have OTAs that they are coaching and getting started this week. And Dexter Lawrence and John Harbaugh will not be meeting eye to eye unless they can hash out a new contract. And this isn't anything new. Giants fans are very familiar with that. Lawrence and the G-men have been through the last 2 off seasons where they have attempted to negotiate a contract that reflects his value in a booming defensive tackle market. And there hasn't been any progress made in these contract negotiations. And the deal that Lawrence signed with how he's played and some of the other players who have gotten compensated at the defensive tackle spot has made his deal a little bit outdated. Now, Lawrence does have 2 years remaining on his contract, and he's scheduled to make $20 million per season. So he is still a very highly compensated player, but initially there had been optimism that with changes within the organization, the huge splash hire of John Harbaugh, that discussions would be moving forward and advancing. But now that they haven't, and these contract negotiations have stalled, new Giants head coach John Harbaugh will open up his team's offseason program this week without the man in the middle. And back during the NFL Combine, Harbaugh was asked about Lawrence and his meaning to the team, and Harbaugh spoke glowingly of him. Keep in mind that Harbaugh has always had defensive-oriented teams with the Baltimore Ravens, and those teams have prioritized the defensive lines, and oftentimes they have had great players in the middle. For example, Haloti Ngata was a great player for Baltimore for such a long time, and so Harbaugh knows that. He's not an idiot, and he said this during the Combine in Indy. How important is he? Really important. He's like super, super important. He's a cornerstone football player, not really a cornerstone, more like the middle stone. He's right in the middle. He's a very big stone, and he's very athletic and an active player. Of course, Harbaugh is explaining that in a very Harbaugh type of way, but the point here being, even when the Giants have been bad, Dexter Lawrence has been one of their shining stars. For me, I cover the Eagles, and I'm from Philadelphia. I'm a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan. They've always had great offensive lines. But since Dexter Lawrence was drafted out of Clemson in 2019, the one player on bad Giants teams on that defense who consistently give Philadelphia trouble, it's Dexter Lawrence, whether it be Jason Kelce, whether it be Cam Jurgens. Dexter Lawrence, otherwise known as D-Law, is a player who can penetrate the line of scrimmage, who stands tall against double teams and one-on-ones, and he's able to make an impact getting after the quarterback as a pass rusher. But because he's got that girthy frame, I know a lot of you like that word, he's been able to become a really good run defender as well. And of course, anytime something like this happens, a conversation like this always centers around value. And some questions come to the forefront, right? If the Giants were to trade Dexter Lawrence, what would they want back? What they want back is different than what they could realistically get back. At this point of his career, how much is Dexter Lawrence as a player worth? And then 2 more. What's the market and which teams are interested in Dexter Lawrence? Because at times, and quite often, I have called him, and he has been the best nose tackle in the National Football League, which is obviously scheme dependent. And he's been one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL since coming into the league several years ago. And going back to a point that I made earlier, the defensive tackle market has become pretty robust over the last couple of years. You know, Chris Jones got that contract extension, and he's not still at his prime, yet he's making more than $30 million per year. Milton Williams, former Eagle, current Patriot, got $26 million per year. Jordan Davis, current Eagle, got $26 million per year. And that made Jordan Davis the highest paid nose tackle in the NFL. And he's, of course, tied with Milton Williams, his former teammate, along the interior of that Eagles defensive line as being the second highest paid defensive tackle in the sport. And so from the point of view from Dexter Lawrence and his agent, they're like, okay, has Dex been better than Milton Williams throughout his career? Yes. Is he a better player right now than Jordan Davis? Yes. Has he played better more recently than Chris Jones? You can make that argument, although we'll talk about D-Law's 2025, which was a down year. Lawrence has put together a very impressive resume. He's been selected to 3 Pro Bowls and was picked as a second-team All-Pro twice since the Giants drafted him number 17 back in 2019. But here is the problem with Dexter Lawrence. Number one, wanting a new deal to be paid more than what he's currently making. And 2, what the Giants could get back for him and what teams are willing to give up for Dexter Lawrence. His 2025 wasn't good. At times, he was unmotivated. At times, he looked out of shape. And his production were career lows. He was limited to just a half a sack. He had only 8 quarterback hits, and he had a pass rush win rate of 8.3% for a 4-13 team. And what's odd is that last year, Dexter Lawrence probably had the most defensive line talent around him that he's had in his entire NFL career. Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, they were all a part of that Giants front, yet Dexter Lawrence had his worst season, arguably as a pro. So you're talking about a 28-year-old player who has 30 and a half career sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and an interception, yet he didn't have a good 2025. He did grade out pretty well when you look at some of the PFF numbers. His overall grade, 75.6, which was 9th among 134 defensive tackles. His pass rush grade, 84.5, that ranks 7th. But for whatever reason, this can be changes in defensive coordinator, which the Giants saw. This can be scheme, personnel. His run defense grade fell off a cliff, and normally that has been one of his strong suits. He had a 57 grade there, which was 56th at the position. And this was coming off a year where in 2024, I remember saying on the show, this is the best nose tackle in the NFL. I sit alongside my guy, Marshall Green, who is one of our best on-air developmental stories in the history of this company. He hosts our Giants show, Giants Now, and our Knicks show, Knicks Now. And he was looking at some Dexter Lawrence tape during that 2024 season, and he's like, he's the best nose tackle in the NFL. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. You know, that year the Eagles were dominant en route to winning a Super Bowl, but when they had to play the Giants, Lawrence always brought it, and number 97, his presence was always felt. And that season, he had an 89.9 overall grade, second at the position. His pass rush grade, 81.4. That was 8th at the position. And his run defense grade, 83.8, which was second among all defensive tackles. It's not to say that he is washed, but if the Giants are asking for a first-round pick and a second-round pick, I think they could have gotten that after the 2024 season. I don't think the Giants can get that going into 2026. He is still productive, but the dip in production in 2025 is alarming. On top of the numbers that we just broke down, 2022, 7 TFLs, 7.5 sacks, 28 quarterback hits, and 3 PBUs. 2023, 7 TFLs, 4.5 sacks, 21 quarterback hits, 2 PBUs. He's really good at batting balls down at the line of scrimmage. 2024, 8 TFLs, 9 sacks, 16 quarterback hits, 1 PBU. But last year, and that was in 12 games in 2024. Last year, in 17 games, 4 TFLs, lowest of the last 4 years, a half sack, by far the lowest in the last 4 campaigns, 8 quarterback hits, lowest in the last 4 years. His pass breakups were number 1 for the last 4 years and where they ranked. His PFF numbers, they have been trending kind of downward over the last 4 as well. And I'm throwing out the last 4 years because that's a pretty good sample size to see where the player is at. So in 2022, 92 overall grade, 92.4 pass rush grade, 81.9 run defense grade. 2023, 92.9 overall, 92.6 pass rush, 89.5 run defense. 2024, 89.9 overall, 81.4 pass rush, 83.8 run defense. And then this past year, another reminder, 75.6 overall, 84.5 pass rush, 57 run defense. So you do have to pose the question, if you are a team interested in acquiring Dexter Lawrence and you're willing to give up a late first-round pick for him, because the buzz right now, Giants could get a late first or a second, you have to figure out, is he a byproduct of his surroundings, playing for an awful defense on bad teams, even though that didn't affect him in those other seasons, or is he a declining player? Because if he's a declining player, it's a two-parter in this trade. You are giving up draft compensation, number 1, and you are giving him a new contract, number 2. So if I'm a team that has a need at nose tackle, defensive tackle, I'm, of course, interested in Dexter Lawrence, but as is always the case in a trade, it always comes down to the price tag. I do think there are some teams that make sense for Dexter Lawrence across the NFL, otherwise known as Sexy Dexy. Great nickname. Tampa Bay Buccaneers under Todd Bowles. I could see Lawrence fitting there. Houston Texans with DeMeco Ryans. I think that he would be able to eat and complement the other pieces along that defensive line. The Chicago Bears were one of the worst teams in the NFL last year at generating pressure on the quarterback. They tried to land Max Crosby. They couldn't. And they could use an interior pass rusher. The Cincinnati Bengals need as much defensive help as they can get. The Buffalo Bills need as much defensive help as they can get. The Baltimore Ravens could utilize Dexter Lawrence perfectly as a nose tackle. And then the Detroit Lions are another team where at defensive tackle, I do think that Dexter Lawrence could fit there. I would have thrown in the San Francisco 49ers, but they traded for Osa Odighizuwa and gave up a 3rd-round pick for him. So for the Niners, I actually love that move now that Dexter Lawrence might require a 1st-round pick or a 2nd-round pick. Osa has missed 1 game in 5 years. He's been more productive. At least last year was more productive. And it took a 3rd-round pick to get Osa. It might take a 1st or a 2nd to get Dexter Lawrence. So I think the Niners actually made a better trade earlier this offseason than any trade that a team could make for Dexter Lawrence right now. So I'm excited to see how this all plays out. This, of course, could be Dexter Lawrence trying to apply pressure on the Giants by saying, I want out, and then the Giants cave. Or this could be real, and he could end up getting dealt. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here on the Chase Down. I always love talking football and hanging out with all of you. I will catch you tomorrow with another video, unless there's more breaking news that we're going to talk about tonight. But tonight, the focus is UConn, Michigan. Great national championship. Can't wait for it. A heavyweight coaching matchup between Dusty May and a coach who is making an argument in Danny Hurley that he's the best coach modern era. If he wins another title, it would be 3 and 4 years for Danny Hurley. And these two rosters are loaded. Michigan has the talent edge, but they're two extremely well-coached teams, two very talented teams. I picked Michigan to win the entire tournament. When I filled out my bracket, I'm rolling with Michigan tonight. Go Blue. All right, we'll catch you soon. Peace.